Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to be just expanding more on my previous video in regards to Bitcoin, the recent dump, and mainly wanting to focus on the RSI. Currently, right now, we're trading at 17,300. It looked like we did make a kind of is temporarily holding support on the 20-day moving average, which is good. Um, this is something that we were hoping to see, or at least I was hoping to see. If it does break, because this isn't like a sure thing in terms of support. But if we do break it, then at that point, if it's tomorrow, today, in 2 weeks from now, we're gonna want to then reset and then find out where we are in relation to the 20-week moving average, because this would be the last, like the first major line of support for Bitcoin. And much like how we saw it here, it acted as good support. Much like how we saw it in the last bull market, it acted as support many a time. And if it does break the 20-day, then we're going to be wanting to look at the 30-day. Currently, right now, we're trading at about 40% above the 20-week moving average, which is still pretty high. Um, if I, just remind you, I can take off this and then bring out the distance to the moving average. And essentially, we did almost like we peak out at about 60%. This was around 30, like 40%. Here, when we were reaching the previous all-time high, was about 40%. Here was 45%. 100%, etc. So like we're getting to that area, and I was saying this previously. We're around the week before, where we're getting to the point where it's kind of straying a little too far from the 20-week moving average, which is a bullish thing, but it's always something that we want to keep in the back of our heads, that this is always a possibility. And yes, I understand that there are moments of 100%, 60%. I would argue that the market, or at least Bitcoin's market cap, was a lot bigger than it was here. So it's going to be less volatile, meaning I think that percentages above the 20-week moving average will be somewhat less than the previous one. So 50% above the moving average, I would treat somewhere like a 60% above the moving average in the previous cycle, for example. So on and so forth. We might get instances. I mean, it's always a possibility of 60% above the weekly moving average. I mean, if we measure, this week's candle to the wick, we're about 56, roughly 56% above the 20-week moving average, which is pretty phenomenal if you ask me. However, I wanted to kind of, bring an outlook on things that I'm looking out for with Bitcoin, and we'll flip it on the daily for now. And uh, many possibilities can happen. We can hold it here, and we can start trading sideways, and then yeah, we could dip below the 20-week and move back up, much like what we saw here, but we essentially just start trading sideways. And that would, I think, be great for our altcoin positions. Everything's showing green now, but that could easily change. The daily candle just started. If it does break further, then again, we'll want to flip to the weekly, see where we are in relation to the 20-week moving average, and also keep a close watch on the RSI. So let me bring this out to full screen. So this is the RSI on a 20-week moving on a weekly scale. So each line will be 1 week. It's not candles, it's just the line. However, I wanted to draw, I drew two kind of like levels here, right? So tolerances in between. I mean, you can draw a line straight through, but I'd like to encompass a channel, upper and lower channel, to give some leeway, so to speak, because not all resistance lines are exact, and not all resistance lines are respected by Bitcoin. However, I kind of just want us to first focus on like what we saw here. What you see here circled was the previous bull market. So from 2016 to 2017 for Bitcoin. Um, each of these peaks you see here was a mini peak above the 20-week moving average. When we saw, like we saw before, those 40%, 50%, 60%, 100% above the 20-week moving average, these as well were part of those. Those were the peaks. And then when we came back down to this bottom channel here, also including this, I believe these didn't quite make it, but I throw them there nonetheless. I wouldn't necessarily consider this, but this one in August 2017, I would consider to be part of that. These are the times where Bitcoin on the weekly time scale hit the 20 weekly moving average. So, what do we see in our current time frame? So now in 2020, well, we just made contact. We're in that upper channel, and we made a sharp turn down, and that explains the, that current 5.62% drop that we saw today, or the yesterday, and right now we're like up on the daily, but down for the week. So that is explaining that sharp redirection. If we break the 20-day moving average, okay, you can argue, well, then the next target is the 50-day. Well, okay, the 50-day moving average is also something to consider. Some people really like to use that, really like that moving average for short-term direction on Bitcoin. So you could say the next one is 50 days. Sure, why not? That's at 14,600. However, the ultimate, I think, if we do break the 20-day, then we have not a surefire destination, but a possible chance to get back to the 20-week on Bitcoin. And currently, right now, where is the 20-week? The 20-week is currently, and we're on Bitstamp, by the way. I can flip it to the BLX, but for this exercise, we're only looking at the last cycle. So the current, the up-to-date time frame is fine. Is around 12,356. I suspect if we do come back down to the 20-week, whenever that may be, RSI is going to be in this bottom channel here, without a doubt. It's happened in the last one. The previous time, I don't know if it goes that far from the last one. Yeah, it doesn't really. Yeah, you kind of don't see it because it was just too volatile back here. And you can kind of argue, we could flip it on the monthly. And you can also, just like a side bit, you can see where the absolute peaks are on the RSI, which is in the mid 90s, right? And to make you feel any better, we're far away from that. So I feel like if that's any consolation to tell you that there's a lot more room to grow, to help you look past of what is happening right now, flip it on the monthly chart, you'll feel better. However, on the weekly is kind of like what our bread and butter is, at least for me. So if the 20-day breaks, if we do not move sideways, if we somehow come back to the 20-week, whether that's today, tomorrow, in a week, 2 weeks, if it's a slower move down, in some of these, it spanned multiple weeks. Like, for example, this one here in June 2017, it took roughly Bitcoin 28 days, so an entire month with two large red candles. The former being 15%, and then the latter one at 23.36% drops, with three weekly candles moving sideways. Okay, so it doesn't mean that we're going to drop this week or next week. It could possibly take roughly like 4 weeks, could be 5 weeks, could be 5 weeks down at the bottom. Um, if that's the case, then we have to then realize that the moving average will change. It's still coming up, right? Because it's still taking the average prices of the last 20 days. So it could still come up, right, and kind of taper off. But in 4 weeks, we might make contact with it if that's something that might play out. And at that point, our target would then be we would want to look back on the RSI, say, okay, where are we on the RSI? If it's in this channel, then I think that's would be a not necessarily a buy, because that's one way how you can play it. That's a good that's one indicator. If Bitcoin hits the 20-week, it's a good indication to maybe consider buying, because it showed in history past if we are in a bull market, then that is the most optimal time to buy. However, if it does close below it, then it's not good. Then if the weekly candle closes below the 20-week, then history has shown us that price movement goes down considerably. However, we made contact with it once. There's a decent chance that it will make contact with it again and hold it again. But I just wanted you to see in this video something else other than the price action. And the RSI is a tool that you can use to identify, when we're kind of peaking, in the short term. I know weekly candles more for long term, but when you see the weekly candle in that upper channel, consider taking profits, some profits. You can then look to other altcoins that have lower risk. You can throw it into stable coins, but that's entirely up to you. Note that this band upper channel comes from like 81.39 RSI to 90, right? So there's a buffer zone of like 9 that is within here, and you can see here that not all of them come around the same area. They vary. Some are 87, some are 90, some are 81, some are even less, some are 80. Like this one right here was 80. And that was when we just went over the last prior all-time high. So keep it in mind. Bitcoin, like if we didn't have a red candle, Bitcoin could it could have been possible that we would have seen like if it moved higher, a RSI on Bitcoin at 90. Entirely possible on the weekly chart, but it didn't. So to sum it all up, we would want to be cautious, but still bullish. I'm still bullish. If this is the correction that we're getting, that's 5% on the week. We had bigger corrections in this cycle already. We had a 12% down week. I can bring out numerous others. Like look here at the when we were somehow like in the grand scheme of things moving sideways, we had weeks that we were down near 10%. So if this is what Bitcoin has to offer, I'll gladly take that 5%. That's fine. It becomes a different story if it comes straight down and we're down 30% and we're at the 20-week moving average. Then it's like Bitcoin watch 24 hours a day. But we're not there yet. And so there's no need to, I guess, panic when it's not happening like that. But also be aware that it could. Am I telling you to sell? No, of course not. Am I selling? No, I'm not selling my position here. I did close my longs, my leverage longs, on Bitcoin, so I don't have a position open anymore. And I closed it, not at 19,000 definitely. I think it was around like 18,300, 18,000. No, more maybe like high 17s. I think, that where I closed it, because I noticed the RSI on Bitcoin, and just closing your long position is a one way to deleverage your risk, because you expose yourself to more risk doing that, um, than keeping it open, I guess. Um, but I locked in those profits. I didn't sell any Bitcoin to fiat, and I'm not necessarily planning to just yet. If we break below the 20 week, then I would consider it, but we're not there yet. And why, why freak out on something that hasn't happened yet? Just have a plan on if it does. What will you do? So that means you're not making like a last ditch decision. If situation A happens, you do X. If situation B happens, you do Y. So in this case, I'm just kind of holding off, seeing what Bitcoin does for the next few days. It could possibly start moving sideways. It could keep on moving down. Um, Another thing to take a look at would be the Bitcoin dominance. Because of the dump, Bitcoin has gained dominance over altcoins despite everything going down. That just means altcoins have been had dumped harder than Bitcoin. But currently for today, where Bitcoin dominance is going down, and you can kind of see like everything's like slowly recovering. It's not a 10% increase by any means, but I mean, look at XRP. It's up six. It's up 6% against Bitcoin, which is kind of funny. I think it's premature now to say like, oh, this is gonna be the altcoin cycle. We won't make that mistake again. That was the only exception I said that, or possibly that we could be in another rally for altcoins, was because we're very close to the prior all-time high. But as price history showed the past few days, um, that is postponed for another time. Uh, anyway, thank you all for watching. Take care.